What's up, metalheads? Lord Metalblade here, and welcome to the Tier List Maker. Now, what this is, it's a website where it gives you a tier list here, and you can choose from any category, whether it be music, characters, books, whatever you'd like, and you can just put them on a list here, whether how great they are in S tier or how bad they are in D tier. And what better way to start a new series than to start by making a tier list of all the studio albums from my favorite band, Iron Maiden. Now, I did an album review way back in the day of Iron Maiden, and then I didn't know about this website, so I figured I'd start a new series, and I'm not just going to be doing music, I'm going to be doing other categories as well, but I wanted to start by doing my favorite band of all time and figuring out how much I love them and what albums I don't think are so great. And luckily, all the albums, and they are the studio albums, no live albums here. It's going to be starting from the first album to the latest album, which is great. I love when tier lists do this. That way nothing's like when it comes to albums or movies, nothing's mixed up or anything. So, the very first Iron Maiden album, the self-titled, released way back in the early 80s. Now, this is when Paul Di'Anno was on vocals. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of the Paul Di'Anno era, but I really respect his work. When it comes to the first album, you have Phantom of the Opera, the self-titled, Sanctuary, Strange World, great titles. To put this on the tier list, I'm going to be putting it in B tier. Yep, like I said, it's not the best and it's not the worst. A really good album, but not quite A or S tier. Next up, we're going on to Killers, another Paul Di'Anno era album. This one, I really haven't listened to all that much. There's a few good songs on there. You know, you have Wrathchild, the self-titled track, Murders in the Rue Morgue, all great songs. And believe it or not, I'm going to be putting Killers in B tier as well. But I'm not going to be putting it above the self-titled, the debut. Okay, now we move on to the best era of Iron Maiden, the Bruce Dickinson era. And what better way to start off than with Number of the Beast, a fantastic album. I love this album. It's not my favorite in the discography, but, you know, it's a definite step up from Killers. You know, you have The Prisoner, Run to the Hills, 22 Acacia Avenue, the title track, Number of the Beast, all great songs. I love Number of the Beast. I'm going to be putting this album in A tier. Fantastic album, and what a great start to Bruce Dickinson's era to Iron Maiden. Like the guitars, the drumming, the vocals, everything is great. All right, next up is 1983's Peace of Mind. Another change in Iron Maiden's lineup. This is when Clive Burr, rest in peace, left the band, and Nico McBrain joined to do the drumming. And he delivered from here on out. This album has my all-time favorite song, which is The Trooper, and I'm pretty sure The Trooper is a lot of people's favorite Iron Maiden songs, but it also has Flight of Icarus, Revelations, this one, Sun and Steel, Where Eagles Dare, To Tame a Land, great songs, and pretty good album art. I'm going to be putting Peace of Mind in A tier. But I don't like it quite as much as Number of the Beast. Even though it has my favorite song, Number of the Beast has it beaten by just a little. Okay, next up is 1984's Power Slave, and what an album this one is. It's got an awesome ancient pyramid album design. This album has fantastic songs. It has 2 Minutes to Midnight, the title track Power Slave, Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, a 13-minute song which is awesome and it's phenomenal. Aces High, you know, Back to the Village, Flash of the Blade, awesome songs, great rhythm, awesome. This album deserves the S tier spot. I love this album. I can't get enough of it. It's a flawless record. Speaking of flawless records, following up is Somewhere in Time, and like I said, if you were here way back in the day for my Somewhere in Time album review, this album is my all-time favorite Iron Maiden album, and it deserves the S tier spot. I love this album. It's fantastic. It's phenomenal. It's just a flawless record. It's completely amazing. You have Caught Somewhere in Time. You have, Loneliness of the Long Distance Runner, Wasted Years, Deja Vu, Alexander the Great, which they haven't played live, they need to. And I actually said that this is their most power metalist sounding album. You know, I know that probably sounds a bit strange, but it's true. That's how I feel about Somewhere in Time. This album is fantastic. It's unbeatable in Iron Maiden's discography. I love this album. It's not going to be leaving my S tier, my top album, anytime soon. Following up with that is Seventh Son of the Seventh Son. I was actually lucky enough to see them play songs on this album back in 2012 when they redid their Maiden England tour. And to hear The Evil That Men Do for the very first time was just an experience and a half for me. But that's not just the only good song on this album. It's got Moonchild, it's got A Prophecy, it's got The Clairvoyant, Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, Can I Play With Madness? Amazing songs, amazing album art. This album is going into S tier, but I'm going to put this in between Peace of Mind and Number of the Beast, because I actually like Number of the Beast a little bit more. But Seventh Son definitely deserves the A tier. Alright, now we're moving on into the 90s era of Iron Maiden. I think this one came out in the early 90s. No Prayer for the Dying. This album is pretty decent. It's got, Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter. It's got, Holy Smoke. A lot of good, pretty decent songs. And I think this is when Yannick Gears joined the band. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if it was Fear of the Dark or No Prayer for the Dying. This album is decent. It's not my favorite. But honestly, I'm going to be putting No Prayer for the Dying in B tier. It's not the best. It's not the worst. But I like it a little bit more than Killers, to be honest. All right. Now we go to 1992. Fear of the Dark. The quote-unquote last album Bruce put out with the band before he left. And what an album they put out. This album is absolutely amazing. I love Fear of the Dark. The album work is awesome. The title track says it all, but, it's got Be Quick or Be Dead, Judas Be My Guide, The Apparition. Great, great songs. This album, I believe, deserves an A tier. I like this album a little bit more than Seventh Son. But Number of the Beast is still up there in the lead in A tier. And it deserves that spot. Okay, here we go. The Blaze Bayley era. This is gonna be a doozy, because I'm not the biggest fan of the Blaze Bayley era. X Factor, it's decent. It's not really my cup of tea. I tried. It's just the Blaze Bayley era. It's not bad. It's just I don't know what else to say. But sorry to all the Blaze Bayley era fans, but that's just me. Okay, now here's the interesting thing. Virtual 11. I actually like this album more than the X Factor. This one is good, but it's not the best. The album artwork is good. I think it's pretty cool. It's got the guy with the virtual reality hat on. It's got Eddie in the back there. It's awesome. I'm actually going to be putting Virtual 11, believe it or not, in B tier. I like it a lot better than the X Factor. Okay. Now we're in the fun part of the video. The modern era of Iron Maiden, which is in 2000 and onwards. Talk about a comeback. Brave New World. Bruce Dickinson returns on vocals. This album is by far my favorite modern era of Iron Maiden. No disrespect to all the other albums coming up, but I honestly think that Brave New World has yet to be topped when it comes to the modern era of Iron Maiden. You have Blood Brothers, The Mercenary, Out of the Silent Planet, The Wicker Man. Amazing tracks, amazing songs that you just can't get out of your head. For me, rather. Brave New World is going into S tier. I love this album. It's the best modern era Iron Maiden album that they put out. And now we move on to 2003, Dance of Death. This album is good too. I mean, I've been saying that for all the albums up until this point, but hey, that's the point of a tier list maker. Gotta find out where you'd put them. Dance of Death. The album artwork here is decent. I like it. I think it has more of a 3D style to it, which isn't bad. Kudos to Iron Maiden for trying it. But when it comes to the songs, you have Monster Gear, Rainmaker, Wildest Dreams, the title track, which is amazing. Good album. I'm actually going to be putting this album in B tier. But not above the first album, because I still think the first album is a little bit better than Dance of Death, to be honest. I know it's crazy, but hey, that first album charm, gotta love it. Okay, so now we're moving on to 2006, Matter of Life and Death. And in my honest opinion, this has to be one of their more underrated albums. I don't really hear a lot of people talk about this album, which is strange. This album is really good, This was made in 2006, and then when I go back and listen to the album, it has a lot of great songs. The Reincarnation of Benjamin Brigg, Different World, and my all-time favorite track on the album, The Longest Day. It is an emotional song. It's absolutely amazing. And I like the look of this album art. You got the tank, you have all the eddies around. It's awesome. Matter of Life and Death is going in A tier. But it's going to be at the very end in A tier, because all the albums that are before it, I like just a little bit more. Okay, now we move on to 2010. Final Frontier. Now, when I first heard about this album, I got a little worried because I thought that this was what was going to be their last album, But luckily, we still have more Iron Maiden music to go. And hopefully we have a lot more in the future. But anyway, this album here is another fantastic modern era Maiden release. When I saw them back in 2010, I was lucky enough to hear them play a couple songs from the new album, which was El Dorado and The Talisman. Fantastic songs, but you also have When the Wild Wind Blows, the title track, Satellite, The Final Frontier, amazing songs, Coming Home, great songs. This album, along with Brave New World, are going into A tier, or S tier, excuse me. But Power Slave just holds up a little bit more. Just a little bit more. And finally, The Book of Souls, which was released in 2015. I've listened to this album. It's good. A lot of lengthy tracks on this record. A lot of lengthy tracks. It's actually a double album. I need to listen to this album some more. It's good. It's got great songs. Speed of Light. It's got, my favorite track off this album is definitely Tears of a Clown, because it's an homage to the late Robin Williams. May he rest in peace. But to put this album on the tier list here, where would I put it? To be honest, I'm putting it in A tier. I'm putting it in A tier right there. Because, like I said, no disrespect to the album, but the other albums that came before it just can't be beat. Alrighty, that is the tier list of all the Iron Maiden studio albums. This is strictly my opinion, like I said before. I would really love to see how you would put Maiden's records on a tier list if you're a Maiden fan. And I'm definitely going to be making more videos on Tier List Maker in the future. Let me know what you guys would like to see in a tier list. I would love to hear your guys' suggestions. And let me know what you think about me doing more videos on this. I'd definitely love to hear your guys' opinions. But this is really fun, it's pretty awesome, to find things that you love. Music, movies, superhero characters, anime, books, whatever it is. And putting them on a list and seeing how much you love them or how much you hate them. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like, leave a comment down below. Don't forget to subscribe. I'm Lord Metalblade, and I will see you metalheads in the next video.